I'm sure you saw over the weekend, the women's national soccer team was in the round of 16, and they got eliminated. They barely made it into the round of 16, and they got eliminated. And I probably couldn't play soccer even half as good as those ladies, and they deserve a lot of applause and a lot of recognition. And yet, this is the worst they've ever done in the history of women's soccer, and they were certainly expected to do a lot better. And it's kind of hard to look at their performance on the pitch and not compare it to what appeared to be a higher priority for them: politics, woke, left wing, divisive politics. Joining us right now to correct my thinking if I'm wrong about this, because I don't know a whole lot about women's soccer. I don't know a whole lot about men's soccer. I like football, not football. Here's Caroline Downey. She's a reporter at National Review Online and also editor-in-chief of the Conservateur. Thanks for joining us, Caroline.
Thanks so much for having me, Larry.
It's funny because it's almost like you're not allowed to criticize their performance because you're making some sort of, negative political judgment. But objectively speaking, purely athletically, this was a huge choke, wasn't it?
Oh, it was abysmal, and I'm not a connoisseur of athletics generally, but I can read the historic record, which was that the U.S. used to be exemplary in soccer and a number of other sports, especially the women's division. And in this case, it was a complete embarrassment. And I think there's one thing I can correct in terms of, statistics, in terms of what has been how the U.S. women's team performs generally. It isn't necessarily that women's soccer got any worse respective to other countries. It's that other countries improved dramatically because they've been investing over the years in practicing, in training, really doubling down on just being like the supreme for their representing their nation the best. And the U.S. hasn't been doing that. They've been prioritizing other issues, and the ringleaders, Megan Rapinoe and a few others, have been focusing on politics, things that have no bearing whatsoever on the sport. And as a result, we lost.
Right. Let's take a look at Megan Rapinoe. This is the game that they got eliminated on was a 0-0 tie. They went to penalty kicks. Megan Rapinoe could have won this match for Team USA, and here's what happened. Now, Caroline, first of all, the goalkeeper didn't even need to be there, and it wouldn't have gone in. She didn't even have to put a hand on it. That was an abysmal miss. But she looked like she was chuckling afterwards, which, again, like it or not, she has become the face of women's soccer, and she's reaped a lot of benefits because she was the face of women's soccer. So now she needs to take the brunt of this criticism. And I think you're right. Her focus on politics instead of playing really is worth scrutiny.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there is nothing worth nothing worth giggling about
Yeah.
that terrible play. I mean, and the fact that that's how they treat losses like this is just it's an indicator that they don't take representing the U.S. seriously on the international stage, because that's what this is. I mean, when we send our players to the World Cup, or we send them to other countries, we're trying to position ourselves as as with patriotism and with pride, and in this case, we're the laughing stock of the country because of Biden's leadership as it is. And then we send our players to, chuckle at themselves and say, yeah, we're sore, we like losing, actually. Just go ahead and defeat us and we'll just take it in stride. It's like, no, I mean, you could be good losers. You can be good. There's good sportsmanship. But, I mean, there should be some shame here. I mean, a reckoning,
Nothing tells you more about what her priority, Megan Rapinoe's priorities were, than this post-match question. She was asked, what of your entire career? She's won 2 World Cups. She's represented the U.S. on the world stage. She's been able to travel the world, playing the sport that she loves, wearing the USA on her shirt. She was asked, what's the big moment that stands out to her when she thinks of her career? Watch this.
Is there a memory that stands out to you right now in this moment? Oh,
I mean, probably equal pay chance after the final. And
wow.
I think,
fighting for equal pay, fighting for the women's team to get equal pay to the men's, which, by the way, is a complete red herring anyway, because didn't they agree to take a base salary that was lower than the men's, or excuse me, higher than the men's, because they didn't want to share in the sponsorship and the ticket sales and the TV revenue. I mean, it's apples to oranges comparing it. But the fact that that's the only thing she cares about, that's the thing that sticks out there. It's politics.
Oh, absolutely. And if you'll excuse the expression, I think they just like to shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over. I think they really enjoy humiliation at this point and enjoy making the country an absolute mockery. Megan Rapinoe last month was asked in a similar press exchange, what if a transgender individual wanted to come onto your team? What would you do? And she said, oh, we'd welcome them with open arms. I mean, like, the absolute irony. They just love to, just love to inflict punishment on themselves. I mean, and this is in spite of the fact that a U.S. women's soccer team, not this women's soccer team, but kind of a variation of it, played against a UK men's team just for fun, I guess, a couple months ago, lost 12-0. So if that doesn't show you an overwhelming evidence of the male physical advantages over women in the sport of soccer, and yet she still would like to accept a transgender individual into the team, it's like they're just asking to be destroyed, you know? And
right.
There's the
I mean, she's
too.
fine with it because she's out the door. She won't lose her spot on the team to a biological man who's playing as a woman, but one of her friends will.
Right. It's anti-woman, it's anti-American, and how far, you know, the United States has fallen.
Yeah. So what's the way forward? I think you made a really good point there a few minutes ago that the focus here has not been investing money in the program itself and enriching the players and enriching the players' skills and the, you know, the under 15 teams and things like that. All you heard from this team was, we want bigger paychecks for ourselves because we're winning and the men make more than us. So is the women's program sort of stagnant right now because of that focus?
Well, yes, and I think there's so many different elements. It's a reflection of the ethos, frankly, of the country right now. It's all about the individual. It's all about you know, how can we make a political statement and outwoke each other, I guess, you know, whether it's kneeling for the flag or kneeling for the national anthem across basketball, across soccer, across, you know, whether it's putting Leah Thomas up against these, you know, all-star swimmers. It's like the United States priorities are so out of whack compared to the rest of the world. And I think this is just what happens when we get so used to the affluence, we get so used to the success in the United States that I think we get complacent and we throw it all out the window for some false god. And this is the false god. It's woke brownie points. It's gender inclusion. It's you know, racism is hidden in everything, including in all the sports. Apparently, it's just absurd. And you know,
and especially the vast majority of them are all white privileged women who came from the suburbs, and they're virtue signaling with their kneeling. It is interesting. A lot of my friends reluctantly cheered for them because they won, and it was exciting, and it does make you feel proud when you see the red, white, and blue at the top of the podium. So as long as they won, you know, some of this other stuff was forgiven. Now they lost in a humiliating way, and I have a feeling they won't be forgiven at all. Caroline, thanks for joining us. Good insights. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me, Larry.
You bet. There's more to come. Keep it here. It's O'Connor Tonight.